What's up, everyone? I'm Sophia Pasternak, an award-winning author and mental health professional, and this channel is all about the intersection where writing meets psychology. I also post stuff about my author journey, baking bread, and outdoorsy stuff. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you're notified when I post a new video. Today, I'm going to be talking about the social isolation and alienation schema. So let's get into it. So the characters with the social isolation and alienation schema will think that they are just fundamentally different from other people, and this makes them unable to kind of fit in with a crowd. These are the loners, the people who, just feel like I don't belong anywhere. I feel like I'm an alien here. And that's just, even if they really want to be in a group, every time they go and hang out with this group, they'll feel like they're an imposter and they're standing there and everybody can tell that they don't belong here. Characters with this schema will constantly worry that nobody wants them around and always think that they're being excluded from things and just assume that they're being excluded on purpose. So if there's a party happening and they didn't get invited, it might have been a legitimate oversight, but they will immediately think, nope, they didn't invite me because they don't think that I belong. So people with this schema can belong to like a very small subculture, and a lot of the times it actually is almost like a subculture of people who don't belong other places. So they, because human beings are social animals, like we need to be with somebody else, we need to be with other human beings, and people who are isolated for too long don't do very well, and that's why being isolated is a punishment in prison. If you go into isolation, that's really bad for your psyche. And so even people who believe that they don't belong somewhere will still kind of form these little tiny groups of people who don't belong anywhere because they need to belong somewhere. Now, the more severe this schema is, the less likely the person is to, or the character is to socialize with anybody. So they will be actually all by themselves all the time. This schema might start in childhood due to like something actually making them different. Children of celebrities can have this schema growing up. Somebody who has a physical difference from other people. Being a minority in your area, you might have this schema. If you're very gifted at school, you might develop the schema because you don't belong anywhere. Everybody called me a nerd when I was a kid and they didn't want me around. They thought I was too smart and too good. So an actual real difference can lead into this schema growing up. I mean, even somebody who is a minority in their particular area can still belong to a group, but they will get into their heads that, nope, I don't belong anywhere. Nobody wants me here. So I'm just going to stay by myself. In my character therapy overview video, I talked about the 3 ways that somebody can respond to their schema being triggered. And by triggered, I mean that something happens, somebody says something, an event occurs, your character sees something or hears something that triggers the schema and makes the schema go, hey, remember how you don't belong anywhere, nobody wants you here? And then it makes them feel bad emotions, and so they will do an action to kind of push those emotions away. And the first response we're going to talk about is overcompensation. The overcompensators act like the opposite of the schema is true. So if your schema is, I don't belong anywhere, nobody wants me here, the opposite of this being true is, I belong everywhere, everybody loves me, I'm so popular. So the overcompensators are social chameleons, and they're always out and they're always talking and they're always, they know everybody. But even though on the outside they look like, oh, they're having a great time and they totally fit in and everybody loves them, on the inside they feel like, I am so fake, everybody knows it, and they're constantly afraid of being found out for being this faker in the group. Even with this fake persona, they still feel like that imposter. The next way to respond are the avoiders. The avoiders act like the schema doesn't even exist. They will rearrange their whole lives to prevent the schema from being triggered. So this just means that they stay away from everyone, they avoid groups, they even avoid individual people, and they kind of engage in a little bit of mental gymnastics and tell themselves, you know what, I'm fine being alone. I love my alone time. I'm an introvert and I don't need to talk to people. So introverts out there, and just so you know, I am like a big old introvert. Introverts, you still need other people in your life. You're still a human being, right? And if you're a human being, you need other human beings. It's pathological to be alone all the time. You will start to not have a great mental state. So introverts, don't be an avoider. Get back into that social situation. Even if it's just with one other person, find your person, find your very small group of people and see them and talk to them and hang out with them. And I'm filming this video during the COVID social distancing thing, which sucks. But Zoom meetings, go for it. FaceTime, go for it. Google Hangouts, please just talk to somebody else. And the third and final way to react to a schema triggering is by surrendering. And the surrenderers approach the schema as though it is absolutely true, it is inevitable, and they're just gonna, I don't belong anywhere. And they might join a group, but they're like that person who's in the group chat who never says anything, even when you tag them, even when you talk to them. And they will stay kind of out on the periphery and maybe talk to people sometimes, but in general they stay away because they don't really feel like they should be there, and they feel like everyone else understands that they shouldn't be there and that they don't want them there, so they act that way. And they focus on the differences between their groups. So even if they're in, like, say they're an artist and they are in a class or a group of other artists, they will focus on, we're all artists, but I draw this type and they all draw this type, and so I'm different. Whereas they really should be focusing on, hey, we're all artists and we all draw different art and it's so beautiful, and look at the different versions of this particular theme. How wonderful. They don't focus on that, they just focus on how different they are. In my schema overviews video, I also talked about the lie, the want, the truth, and the wound. So the lie in this case is, I'm different, nobody likes me and nobody wants me around, I don't belong anywhere. And it can come in the form of like, I am fundamentally different from other people. I am alone. I am an alien in wherever I happen to be. If I disappeared, nobody would notice. Those are the thoughts of characters with the social isolation and alienation schema. Now, the want is what your character thinks they need in order to be happy. And in this particular schema, the want is usually something like, I want to find a special group that I can belong to. But they are ignoring the fact that even if they do find a special group that they can belong to, they're probably not going to feel like they belong to it anyway. Or they might already belong to a special group, but they still don't feel like they belong there. And they're always seeking this thing that schema is going to take away from them, and it's not going to let them feel like they belong. The truth is the thing that they actually need in order to be happy. In this case, it is realizing that, you know what, I am a little bit different from other people, but look at all the ways I am the same. Or I understand that I do have more similarities to other people than I have differences. And the wound is the thing that happened in the first place that made them have this schema, that made them tell themselves this lie. And like I said earlier, this can actually come from real things that happened when they were kids, like being a minority in whatever place they lived in. So in this case, it's a little bit different because, I really was the weirdo, but they don't cross over into, well, I don't have to be a weirdo anymore. I don't have to be the outsider anymore. All right, folks, now is the time when you get your piece of paper, open your Word document, get your stick with the charred end on it so you can write on your cave wall, however you're going to write this down, and write down what your main character's relationship is with their lie. And this is, so the lie is, I don't belong anywhere. Now write down exactly how that affects them personally in their life, the things that they do in order to kind of hold up this lie. Are they an overcompensator? Are they an avoider? Are they a surrenderer? How do they approach this feeling of not belonging anywhere? The second thing you want to write down are all of the things that happen that enforce this lie and that prove this lie to be correct. This can be other things that people say or things that the main character feels, like they go to a party and nobody talks to them. Well, obviously it's because I don't belong here and I'm a weirdo. Not because I didn't talk to anybody else and I just stood in the corner and looked surly all night. That's not why. And then, I'll give you all a second. Okay, and then the third thing you want to write are all of the things that could happen that challenge this lie and prove to the main character that this is not the truth, that you can belong somewhere if you just let yourself belong somewhere. Okay, so those three things, if you are writing, and usually this happens in my act 2, kind of in the either leading up to the midpoint or just after the midpoint, you're trying to get your character to the end point, And they are, you know, yes, the lie is true. No, it's not true. Yes, it's true. No, it isn't true. No, it really isn't true. Yes, but it is true. Going back and forth and back and forth. And as you're writing out these scenes, like, what's going to happen next? What do I do? Come back to that list that you just wrote and pick out something in there. And even if you're not going to include that in your story itself, write a real quick scene with those things happening in them. Maybe you'll surprise yourself and it'll belong in your story. Who knows? But either way, it's going to shake up your brain and it's going to get you thinking in those types of ways. So there you go. And that is it. We are done with the social isolation and alienation schema. So if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'm gonna keep making these, but the thumbs up make me feel good. And please watch the other videos in the series. I think this is gonna be like video 6 or 7 by now, so I've got quite a few. And subscribe to my channel if you are so inclined. And also, if you have a writer friend who kind of nerds out about story theory and character arcs and that kind of thing, please tell them about my videos. And if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear it. So leave me a comment down below or find me on social media, which is all links down below. Anyway, so that's all, and have a nice day.